Committee on Appropriations. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Bill 12 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Senate Bill 19 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Senate Bill 21 be amended as follows and as amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Senate Bill 40 be amended as follows and as amended be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Senate Bill 301 be referred to the Committee of the Whole with favorable recommendation. Committee on Health Insurance and Environment. After consideration on the merits, the committee recommends the following. Senate Joint Resolution 43 be amended as follows and as amended be referred to the House for final action.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Randall. And with that, Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the following bills be made special orders at 6:34 on May 9th. Senate Bill 12, Senate Bill 19, Senate Bill 21, Senate Bill 301, Senate Bill 300, and Senate Bill 40.
All right. Members, you have heard the motion. Seeing no objection, those bills will be made special orders. Representative Exum. All right. Members, you have heard the motion. Seeing no objection, Representative Exum will take the chair.
Son. The committee will come to order. With your unanimous consent, the bills will be read by title unless there is a request for a reading of the bill at length. Committee amendments will not be read unless requested as they are printed in your bill folders. Floor amendments will be shown on the screen and on your iPads and not read unless requested. Bills will be laid over on the motion of majority leader or the assistant majority leader, and the court rule is relaxed.
Judiciary Committee report on 12. Did you read the title? No. Oh.
Ready? Mr. Randall, will you read the title to Senate Bill 12?
Senate Bill 12 by Senator Martinez-Domenico, also Representative Lee, concerning competency restoration services for dependents deemed incompetent to proceed and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Representative Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 12. There is no committee report.
To the bill, Representative Lee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senate Bill 12 came out of the Interim Committee on Mental Health and the Criminal Justice System with a recommendation for the state to provide competency restoration services for adults and juveniles, designated the Department of the Behavioral Health Office to provide those services, ordered them to prepare a curriculum to provide how competency restoration services should be provided. And it allocated in the Appropriations Committee, there was an Appropriations Committee report. The Appropriations Committee allocated $18,000 to provide for competency restoration services. I move for adoption of the Appropriations Committee report.
There's no appropriations.
There wasn't? We went to Appropriations Committee.
Right, but we didn't put an amendment on it.
Okay. I withdraw the motion for the Appropriations Committee and ask for a aye vote on the bill.
Thank you, Representative Lee. Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 12? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 12. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Senate Bill 12 is adopted. Mr. Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to lay over Senate Bill 19 till the end of the special orders calendar.
Thank you. Senate Bill 19 will be laid over to the end of the special orders calendar. Mr. Randall, please read the title to Senate Bill 21.
Senate Bill 21 by Senator Martinez-Domenico, also Representative Singer, concerning reentry services for persons with a mental illness in the criminal justice system.
Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 21 in the Appropriations and Public Health and Human Services Committee report.
To the Appropriations report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Appropriations Committee report clarified the source of funding, and with that, I ask for an aye vote on the Appropriations Committee report.
Is there any further discussion on the Appropriations Committee report? Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Senator, I know, sorry. Representative Singer. Representative Singer, I have a question about this fiscal note, and I thought I had it answered in committee, but then I asked somebody over here, and I got a bit of a different question, and that is, how did we go from a $6,670,000 fiscal note to a potential transfer? And I understand that you found a way to fund it in the budget in a different category, I guess, the marijuana tax cash fund, but it's still coming out of our budget. So how does that work, that we go from a $6 million to a potential transfer?
Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Representative Landgraf. That's actually a very good question, and it's a very simple answer. I'm a fiscal conservative. Oh, Hummers are over. I'm sorry. No, in all seriousness, there were a couple things that happened with this bill. The first thing is that the $16 million long bill amendment for housing services that was to go to the Department of Local Affairs was approved by both the House and the Senate. That number ended up going down to $15.3 million. The agreement with the Department of Local Affairs is that they would set aside not quite $6 million, but closer to $4 million for housing services. Now, we have not specified that specific dollar amount in the fiscal note. That is going to be somewhat at DOLA's discretion based on the guardrails that were put on that long bill amendment. In addition to that, the other set of dollars that you're talking about actually come from another part of the bill that had always been in the bill. The bill actually builds into a reversion, which is a new term that I just learned. So if Community Corrections does not spend its entire budget allocation, the task force for the mental illness in the criminal justice system said, in this year, if we revert those dollars, if they don't spend all those dollars, they will revert into the supportive service housing program. So that got brought up in committee a little bit as well. The concept that, instead of spending money on community corrections, we would be spending money on wraparound services for more robust housing services for people with mental illness leaving the criminal justice system. That number is a flexible number. It can float up or it can float down depending on how much community corrections spends. The fiscal analysts can only use their best guess, but the hope is that we'll be able to actually use these dollars to get a really good jump start on this. Originally, that was to be appropriated annually, and that caused some heartburn for the Joint Budget Committee and for some other folks, because typically when dollars are reverted, those are used for supplementals. So the Appropriations Committee report, which I'm guessing you probably will not see a sheet from because that just happened in the well 2 hours ago, but I'm happy to share the memo with you. Limits those reversion dollars to only this year. That means that in out years, maybe it goes here, maybe it goes back into the general fund, maybe it goes somewhere else. So step one, that first pocket of money, that $4 million cash funds for marijuana tax cash fund, long bill. That other set aside, or I won't say set aside, that other set of dollars, the other $2 million-ish dollars, that's the reversion dollars.
Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My concern is that there are a lot of anticipated to increase workload in 2017, 2018. There's funding needs and expenditures beginning in 2018, 19, and so on and so forth throughout this fiscal note. And I noticed that in outlying years, it's a potential transfer. But how do we budget for potential increases and potential transfers and up to $3 million? I mean, where does it stop? How do you budget that? I would like to know from the JBC how they budget potential amounts in the future.
Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm not a JBC member, but I play one on the Colorado Channel.
Do you do it in French?
I do it in French, but this is the issue with the budget on a continual basis. We don't know exactly how much is going to be coming in from marijuana tax cash funds or reverted funds or any of these things. What we do know is that in this year, we have set aside $15.3 million and that we'll have somewhere around $2 million reverted back from community corrections. The hope is that this year we can start to make those determinations, and next year, if DOLA wants another $15.3 million, they're going to build it into their budget request, they're going to do something else, and they're going to provide an explanation to the Joint Budget Committee during their JBC presentations as to whether or not these are the right housing programs to do this. This bill creates those guardrails or that process to say this is an appropriate use of those dollars, of those housing dollars that were voted on by the House and the Senate in that long bill amendment, and this is an appropriate use of those reverted dollars. Ultimately, we're on a year-to-year budget, and that's the best answer I can give you without having been a JBC member.
Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It looks like one of our JBC members is not going to come up here, so I'm going to take your word for it. I did vote yes in committee, but after looking at this, I'm afraid I'm going to be a no when it comes up on thirds, if it comes up on thirds. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on the Appropriations Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Appropriations Committee report to Senate Bill 21. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The Appropriations Committee report is adopted. Representative Singer to the Health Insurance and Environment report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Health Insurance and Environment Committee report actually put on the guardrails as to where these dollars should and can be spent. This includes ensuring that supportive services, including offender reentry services, will be allowed as a resource within this bill, and I ask for an aye vote on the Health Insurance and Environment Committee report.
Thank you, Representative Singer. Is any further discussion on the Health Insurance and Environment Committee report? Seeing none, all those in favor, the question before us is the adoption of the Health Insurance and Environment report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The Health Insurance and Environment report is adopted. To the bill, Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With that, we are to the bill. This bill represents an opportunity to actually do something that our state continually talks about, and that is actually saving the taxpayers' dollars. We know that we have one of the highest homeless rates in the nation. At the same time, we also know that when we provide supportive wraparound services that are substantially less costly than jail, psychiatric hospitals, or homeless shelters, we can actually save money, encourage people to gain their own self-sufficiency and own independence, and do so in a way that they will not return to the criminal justice system. Criminal justice system is the most costly and most prevalent provider of mental health services in our state. We can turn that ship around with a bill like this by starting to figure out new, more cost-effective ways to do this. This is more cost-effective than Fort Lyon, more cost-effective than homeless shelters, more cost-effective than jail or prison. And with that, I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Representative Singer. Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 21? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 21. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Senate Bill 21 is adopted. Mr. Randall, please read the title to Senate Bill 301.
Senate Bill 301 by Senator Scott and Marble, also Representatives Becker, Kay, and Singh, concerning energy-related statutes in connection therewith reducing an appropriation.
Madam Majority Leader, Representative Kate Becker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 301 and the Judiciary Committee report.
To the Judiciary Committee report.
Thank you, Representative Exum. So in the Judiciary Committee, the committee added an amendment that removed much of the current language that is in the bill, including some of the repeals that were listed in the bill. It also removed the provision regarding the PUC creating a rulemaking for oil and gas reserves. And lastly, it removed language referring to COGCC's flow line study.
Thank you. Representative Singh.
Thank you, members. So what the Judiciary Committee did is they voted on an amendment that basically changed the entire bill. It was a strike below. And the bill is so bad, I'm a sponsor, and I'm asking you to vote no.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Representative Exum. I'm sorry that Representative Sane and I have a disagreement about this. I think it's a good amendment. There's still disagreement with the Senate on where the bill should end up, and I'm told that as soon as we send a bill over to them, we can work on finding compromise and mutual changes in a conference committee. I ask for an aye vote on the Judiciary Committee report.
Is there any further discussion on the Judiciary Committee report? Seeing none, all those in favor? The question before us is the passage of the Judiciary Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no.
No!
The Judiciary Committee report is adopted. To the bill, Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just handed an amendment by our fantastic attorney, Esther Van Mork, who did the drafting on this, and there was one section where she forgot to strike the words clean and renewable, or add back in the words clean and renewable. And I'm sorry, I forgot to give you the packet.
Would you like to move the amendment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move L064 and ask that it be displayed. The other part of the technical amendment.
Hold on just a minute. The amendment has been properly moved and is displayed. Please continue, Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the bill largely deals with two funds that are in the Colorado Energy Office now, and those funds had been cut a little bit. When we took the cut out, we needed to remove that part of the title that says, and in connection therewith, reducing an appropriation. So these are technical amendments, and I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. Is there any further discussion on Amendment L064 to Senate Bill 301? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L064. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Amendment L064 is adopted. Back to the Judiciary Committee report. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was actually an amendment to the bill. So L064, I think we are on the bill.
Okay, my mistake. To the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So at this point, the bill continues the two funding sources that Colorado Energy Office has. One is the Innovation Fund, one is the Clean and Renewable Energy Fund. And then there are some provisions in the bill that eliminate some projects of the Colorado Energy Office that aren't being fully implemented or implemented at all. And so that's the gist of the bill, and I ask for an aye vote.
Representative Singh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, the bill removes some language, including inspecting flow lines, which, as you remember, had something to do with the explosion that happened recently, oil and gas. I would renew my call for a no vote on this bill. It's a danger to public safety.
Thank you. Is there any further, Madam Majority Leader?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't think this bill has much to do with public safety, but I certainly support COGCC doing a study on flow lines. It doesn't need to be in this bill for it to happen, and I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader. Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 301? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 301. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Senate Bill 301 is adopted. Mr. Randall, please read the title to Senate Bill 300.
Senate Bill 300 by Senator Lambert, also Representative Kennedy, concerning the authority of the Commissioner of Insurance to implement programs to address the rising costs of providing health care coverage to high-risk individuals in the state, and in connection therewith directing the Commissioner to study issues related to the implementation of such programs.
Thank you, sir. Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 300 and the committee report from Health Insurance and Environment.
To the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. In Health Committee this afternoon, we made a number of amendments to the bill. in the discussions that happened as this was coming over from the Senate, we were discussing the breadth of the scope. The committee report includes amendments that narrowed the scope of the bill, so it's exclusively talking about reinsurance programs. I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Further discussion on the committee report? Okay. Representative Landgraf. And Representative Ransom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, I ask for a no vote on the committee report. A very long, well, one-page amendment was put on in committee, and what it does, it really limits the ability of the study. So the Department of Insurance would like to study all of the options to solve this problem, and what this does, it limits it to reinsurance. So we want to take this report off and put it back to the broader issue. I'd ask for a no vote on the committee report.
Thank you. Representative Ransom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I add my request to Representative Landgraf to vote no on the committee report. Not only would it restrict the department from looking at all the options that might be available. I spoke with some people from the Hospital Association as well, and they said that they had some very good other ideas beyond reinsurance that they wanted to include in the options, because we all do want to make sure that people have the ability to be insured even if they have some type of pre-existing condition or something that they can't afford to buy insurance for. But there are plenty of different options besides reinsurance. And again, the amendment restricts the ability of the study to look at these other options. So I ask for a no vote on the committee report.
Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I realize maybe I should take a step back on this. I just explained the committee report without explaining the bill. This bill is a study. It's giving Division of Insurance the authority to look for gifts, grants, and donations where they do have sources lined up to study programs to try to address the rising cost of health care for individuals with high-risk conditions. The Senate sponsor, Senator Lambert, approached me about this bill a couple weeks ago with a heavy focus on the idea of these reinsurance programs. If you don't know what reinsurance is, it's an insurance program for insurance carriers. What that means is insurance carriers who are having a hard time doing the actuarial analysis to really understand how much their high-cost individuals are going to cost, are trying to make these premium estimates, and they're finding it rather challenging. What happens in some of the states that have looked at these reinsurance programs is they have been able to offer lower premiums to consumers based on the ability to defray some of their higher costs into a reinsurance program. Now, that was always the understanding between Senator Lambert and myself about what this bill was intended to do. And when they converted it from the original version of the bill into a study in the Senate, there was some language included that started talking about more traditional high-risk pools. Now, if all of you remember Cover Colorado, these high-risk pools were a good option in the years before the Affordable Care Act for people with high-risk medical conditions. It was a more expensive program for them for sure, and it was heavily subsidized by the state to keep this program afloat. When I amended this bill in committee today, it was to say we are not going backwards. We do not want to go back to the days of Cover Colorado where people who have pre-existing medical conditions have to pay more for their health insurance. I am supportive of a bill that will authorize a study looking at programs moving forward where we continue to maintain quality coverage for everyone, regardless of pre-existing conditions, at the same cost that every other individual may pay. So I ask for a yes vote on this committee report.
Representative Humphrey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I rise in opposition to the committee report. This bill was broader and addressed high-risk individuals, not just in terms of reinsurance and that sort of thing, but also in terms of high-risk pools. And we need to look at that whole picture if we're trying to do an unbiased assessment and study of the situation, not try to limit it to the desired outcome of certain parties. So I think that there were stakeholders who felt snubbed by what happened, and I think we want to put this back to the way it was. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Karnak confused. I'm sorry, I'm confused. I understand, members, that that this amendment that Representative Kennedy offered, does it limit just looking at the reinsurance or high cost that they're in this study? Is it just looking at one of the avenues, or are there other avenues that should be considered as the bill and as the study moves forward? That's my question.
Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the question, Representative Liston. Yeah, my amendment would limit this to studying reinsurance programs.
Okay, thank you very much. I think that, from what I understand, Representative Kennedy, is that it would be helpful if some of the other avenues were explored as well. You know, certainly reinsurance is important, but there might be other things that can and should be looked at. So it kind of defeats the purpose of the study, but it's your bill.
Thank you. Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I've had numerous conversations with the Division of Insurance about this bill. Reinsurance programs are really what they're interested in studying. There's funding available currently for them to look into these kinds of programs. There are specific waivers authorized under existing federal law that they could apply for that would allow us to look at these programs that look like what Maine and Alaska and Minnesota are looking into, with some success so far. This is what the Division of Insurance wants to study. They are not particularly interested in studying traditional high-risk pools.
Thank you, Representative Kennedy. And we are still on the committee report. Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Kennedy, this is a good bill. I liked it going into committee. My concern is, if you look at the fiscal note, on the first page, it says the commissioner is required to explore the feasibility of a high-risk pool, a reinsurance program, or other high-risk programs. It's my understanding that the goal of this is to figure out programs that serves the most number of people at the lowest cost. That's what we want, and the best way to do that is to look at all options, not limit it. And my other issue with this is we are in day 119. This bill with an amendment is going to have to go back to the Senate, come back, who knows, ping pong back and forth, and I don't know that you have the Senate sponsors' agreement on this amendment. I'm curious whether you do or not.
Thank you, Representative Landgraf. Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate that question, Representative Landgraf. I have been in very frequent communication with the Senate sponsor over the last few days, as he was with me when he offered the amendment in the Senate. It has been challenging to find time to sit down and hash out all of these details, but he knows exactly what I'm doing. He is open. He has himself expressed that reinsurance is the primary focus of what he wants to look at. He also does share your concern that there should be a little bit greater flexibility, but he knows where I'm coming from. He knows that this is the bill I agreed to when I signed on, was a bill that was about reinsurance. He knows that I did not sign on to a bill that was about high-risk pools. And I've been very clear in my communication with that. We may yet have some conversations to have before this gets through the process. But don't go under the impression that the Senate sponsor does not know exactly what we're doing right here.
Thank you. Representative Ransom.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I would just like to stress that while reinsurance may be the primary focus that the Senate sponsor agreed to, primary does not mean only. And what we're thinking is that this is going to look like is a mixture of reinsurance, which, as the sponsor described, was the federal backing up of people in certain categories of insurance, the high risk people that desire to be insured, but that there could be some possible combination for some of the people that might be in different income categories or what have you, that would fit into other categories. And again, this is just looking at options, and as Representative Landgraf pointed out, the fiscal note does list, the commissioner is required to explore the feasibility of a high-risk pool, a reinsurance program, or other high-risk programs. So yes, reinsurance very well could be the primary focus. It might be what comes out of the study, but without looking at other options during the study period, I think we'd be cutting short the ability of the department to look at the best options to cover the most people, and it very well might be the least expensive for everybody involved, but they need to be able to have options. We don't need to put a leash or a tight noose around the department's neck while they're looking at options. We should let them look at whatever they can find. And again, I urge a no vote on the committee report.
Thank you, Representative Ransom. Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Kennedy, I'm curious as to why you didn't think this was for high-risk individuals when it says right in the title, the cost of providing health care coverage to high-risk individuals. That's pretty clear to me. And because that's clear to me, again, I think these are individuals whose health care can be at the highest rates. I think we need to have the option open to look at everything. I ask for a no vote on the committee report.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on the Health Insurance and Environment Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Health Insurance and Environment Committee report to Senate Bill 300. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. No. The committee report is adopted. To the bill, Representative Kennedy.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Members, I think you know all about the bill by now. This is a bill authorizing the Division of Insurance to study reinsurance programs and propose a plan back to the Joint Budget Committee on October 1st and to the health committees in their SMART hearings in January so that we can start looking at some ways to try to reduce premiums all across Colorado, but particularly in rural Colorado. I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Representative Kennedy. Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 300? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 300. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. No. The 300 is adopted. Mr. Randall, could you please read the title to Senate Bill 40?
Senate Bill 40 by Senator Cafalas, also Representative Pabon, concerning public access to files maintained by governmental bodies and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Thank you, sir. Representative Pabon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I move Senate Bill 40, the Finance Committee report, and the Appropriations Committee report.
Thank you. To the Appropriations Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Chair, in the Appropriations Committee, we actually did excellent work, thanks to the Minority Leader, Representative Beckman. I'm just kidding. We did have a good discussion with the stakeholders, and that's what's most important on this bill, because they're the ones who are going to be impacted, both the custodians and the record requesters. And so what we did is we took Senate Bill 40, which was a very modest approach to modernizing our request for records in the state of Colorado, amendment to the Colorado Open Records Act. And we said this, and simply this: if you have a record in an electronic format, in a native format that's searchable or sortable, and that record is requested by requesters, whether it's the Press Association, whether it's anyone who's entitled to it, which is everyone under the Colorado Open Records Act, because at the end of the day, these are public records that have been funded by and paid for by the taxpayers. If they ask for a record and it's in that format, then that format will be produced in its format. So you can't take a spreadsheet, for instance, and you can't format it into a PDF and suddenly hand it out and say, I've complied with the act. So what we're doing is we're modernizing the Colorado Open Records Act. We had, again, a modest approach to this bill from the very beginning, and want to thank my friend and colleague, Senator Cafalas, for taking us through such a great pathway through the Senate and now here we are in the House. It talked about structured data. It talked about innumerable requests for database type of information. And we heard from the custodians that this would be an enormous change to the Colorado Open Records Act. And so after many, many stakeholder meetings discussing this issue both in the Senate and in the House, we decided that we were going to take a more modest approach, even on the modest bill that was introduced. But here's something that's important for all the members, for all the legislature, and for all the people in Colorado. This issue is not over. It's only beginning. This is the beginning of the beginning with Senate Bill 40. And what I mean by that is there is no settled questions. There are no settled issues. No definitions have been set in law for all of time. No case law has been set in law for all time. What we're doing here is a very modest approach, but we'll be back. And so for the record requesters, for the custodians, for all the people of Colorado, this is not the end, but the beginning. We have endeavored on a course that will continue long after us, at least until this summer and this fall and the next legislative session, to address these issues. So if anyone comes to you and says, Representative Pabon and his Senate Bill 40, Senator Kafalis and his Senate Bill 40 said this was the end, there's nothing more. And for those of you who hear that and say, you voted on this in 2017, and so this settled the question, the answer is no, we didn't. We're only beginning, and I want to make that very clear in the legislative history. So because of that, because of what we did with the stakeholders and everyone else, I ask for an aye vote on the Appropriations Committee report.
Thank you, Representative Pabon. Representative Kennedy on the Appropriations Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Amendment L055 to the Appropriations Committee report and ask it to be displayed.
Thank you. Amendment L005 has been properly moved and displayed. Please continue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Members, this is an amendment to clarify the way that we refer to medical records in statute. In the current KORA statute, you can see a lot of the language in Roman numeral paragraph 1 up there about certain kinds of data that are not to be turned over. And this is built to protect people's personal health data. Well, over the last however many years, this terminology has modernized significantly. And now the term that we use and that is defined in federal regulation is electronic health records. We felt strongly that we needed to add this language to clarify that these hospitals should still not be turning over people's personal medical data to a KORA request, that is still protected data. I ask for an aye vote on the amendment.
Thank you. Further discussions on Amendment L00055. Representative Krapthar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So thank you, Representative Pabon and Representative Kennedy, for introducing this amendment, because this is important, that we are making sure that we're protecting our health records, so we're protecting the privacy and confidentiality of people in their health history, but at the same time being able to get the data that we need out of the electronic health records. So I appreciate your work on this. Thank you.
Is there any further discussion on Amendment L055? Seeing Representative Beckman on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just have a question as I'm reading it very quickly. This has nothing to do with the people who are in eligibility programs that might be asked for a lot of information data sharing. This is only that has to do with HIPAA and medical records, not like food stamps or CBMS or any of the eligibility databases.
Thank you. Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the question, Representative Beckman. No, it has nothing to do with those other kinds of records. This is a person's personal medical data. This has to do with their own immunization records. It has to do with the treatments that the doctor has prescribed to them on a variety of conditions, a history of their own medical conditions.
Thank you. Is there any further discussion on Amendment L055 to Senate Bill, or to the Appropriations Committee report? Representative Pabon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I want to thank Representative Kennedy. I want to thank the stakeholders who have worked on this bill, frankly, much more than they ever had to try to find some consensus on this issue. It's as important as any issue is. It's as important as taxpayer returns, which are already protected under Colorado law. Some would say taxpayer returns are more sensitive than medical information. But that being said, even if it's not, I think this bill goes a long way to addressing the issue, and this is a friendly amendment. I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Is there any other further discussion on Amendment L055? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L055 to the Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Amendment L055 is adopted. Back to the Appropriations Committee report. Any further discussion? Representative Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And when we heard this bill in Finance Committee, my concern was about unintentional release of private citizens' data. We interact with the government so many different ways in so many areas, whether it be enrolling your kids in school, applying for jobs, filing your taxes, paying your property taxes, buying property. We have a lot of different interactions with government. And when you ask for the release of government information, you may inadvertently get a history of a private citizen. And that was my concern about this bill when we heard it, that we could inadvertently capture a picture of someone's private interaction with government and actually kind of get a history of property purchases, where they've moved, rental purchases, car purchases, anything that they might have done interacting with the government. And I just want to make sure that the changes to this bill would preclude that. So I would ask the sponsor if he knows that answer.
Thank you, Representative Lawrence. Any further discussion? Representative Pabon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And the intent of Senate Bill 40 isn't to address what is disclosed, but how it's disclosed. In other words, what we're trying to do is modernize the mechanism under which records are produced in Colorado. And what we have right now is a pretty robust system, whether it's the Department of Revenue statute that addresses driver's license information, address information, Social Security information, all of the most sensitive data. All that information is precluded from being released under current Colorado law. And what we have to recognize here, though, is that more and more what we're dealing with as custodians of records, and me and Representative Wilson, Representative Thurlow, Representative Esgar, Representative Gray, are all custodians of records. And what do we do most of the time? Representative Foote is too. What do we do most of the time with the information we receive and the information we share? We don't print it out, although some of us do. I'm not denying that. But most of us keep it in our phone or in our computer. So does the government. The government does the same thing. And so to say suddenly that only printed paper is now disclosable, but those electronic records are not, doesn't comport with where we are in modern society. So what Senate Bill 40 does is it tries to modernize, again, in a very modest way, in a way that does nothing to settle this question in any way. Frankly, we're only going to continue from this platform and discuss these very issues from now, frankly, maybe until eternity, for those of you who are still around. But what we're going to do is make sure that we have transparency in our government, to make sure that what needs to be known, what needs to be told, about what we do as a government function is available to the public, is available to those taxpayers who pay for the function of the government so that they can rightly ask for this information and get it in a format that is meaningful in 2017. I ask for an aye vote on the Appropriations Committee report.
Thank you, Representative Pabon. Representative Lawrence to Appropriations Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Representative Pabon, I would agree with you. We do keep our records in electronic format all the time. But when people submit a CORA request to the government, they're usually asking for government information. They want to know how different departments are spending tax dollars. Specifically, I would say they would like to know what the judicial branch is doing with their tax dollars. But heaven forbid that we would ask that question, because they can write a rule and set their own parameters, and we actually don't get to see that, even though the legislature has purview over that. But that's a conversation for another day. My concern is that if someone submitted a CORA request for properties purchased in Weld County, looking to see if they could contact property owners and mineral right owners, how much of a picture would that paint? I mean, they're obviously getting private citizens' information, not just government department on how they're spending dollars. And I know there's a crossover there, but I think there is some concern, and if you could just explain the searchable, non-searchable, sortable, non-sortable, and how that's going to interact in the change in Senate Bill 40.
Thank you, Representative Lawrence. Representative Pabon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Lawrence, it's a very good hypothetical, although it's not a hypothetical at all, because those property records are being asked for in every corner of the state of Colorado about who owns what kind of property. And the answer is, forget Senate Bill 40. Let's pretend this bill never happened. That information is currently available right now under Colorado Open Records Act. So what does Senate Bill 40 do? Senate Bill 40 says, instead of printing out every deed for every parcel of land contained in whatever your search is, and we'll just use Weld County as an example. No offense to the representative from Weld County. There's a couple of them. But what this would do is, if you ask for all the deeds and all the parcels and the owners of those parcels in Weld County, ostensibly under the Colorado Open Records Act, you could print out every parcel of land, every deed, and hand the requester, whoever it is, an entire stack that might reach to the ceiling of this Capitol. What Senate Bill 40 does is says, if you have a spreadsheet that contains that information, that lists every parcel with every landowner and every legal description, you're required to produce that. That's all Senate Bill 40 does. So we're not changing what's disclosable, we're changing how it's disclosable. So Representative Lawrence, you asked me how about searchable and sortable and how that would all work. Well, if it's in its native format, and again, we go to Excel spreadsheets because that's the easiest example here. If information is in an Excel spreadsheet, then you should produce it as an Excel spreadsheet. And if it's in an Excel spreadsheet, what Senate Bill 40 says is you can't then convert it into a PDF and share it with the requester because it's simply easier or more available. It says you got to keep it in the same format. So again, we're not changing what's disclosable at all. And frankly, we've taken Senate Bill 40 from what it was at its beginning, and we've created just a small image of what it was to alleviate both the custodians' issues and some of the issues with open data, and done a very modest approach to modernizing our Open Records Act. But again, let me just be clear, this isn't over, it's only beginning.
Thank you, Representative Pabon. Representative Lawrence, we're still on the Appropriations Committee report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Pabon, one of the issues we had before, and I didn't see it in this new language, is metadata and the information that is actually hidden in those cells that could be used for various different purposes. And I want to make sure that that's not in there because, again, it can be manipulated and it can be changed. And we're not saying that a searchable or a sortable database wouldn't be able to be used in different ways, but metadata brings us to a whole different level of information that could be collected in a CORA request. So if you could just clarify for me that this gives the custodian the opportunity to reformat the information, removing metadata.
Thank you, Representative Lawrence. Any further discussion on the Appropriations Committee report to House Bill or Senate Bill 40? Seeing none. Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Appropriations Committee report, as we've been discussing, includes really the whole bill that we've been through. And I just want to talk a little bit about the process that we went through over the last few days as we were discussing this issue. I really appreciate Representative Pabon giving me a chance to help out and weigh in on some of these issues. After I saw it come through Finance Committee, there were a number of significant issues that were still outstanding in the bill. And what we did, as has already been discussed, is we dramatically simplified the scope of the bill. I think what we really learned from this process is many of the paragraphs we added to address issues of one stakeholder brought up major concerns from another stakeholder. So the idea of simplifying this was, I think, really helpful. But what we've been learning even over the course of the last 5 minutes is that there are a number of issues that are still outstanding that we're hoping would be resolved by minimal disruption to the existing law. And we've been continuing to work through it. I think you saw that today with the amendment that I offered a moment ago addressing the concerns that were raised by some of the hospitals in our state. And I think we're going to continue to work on some of those issues for a moment.
Thank you, Representative Kennedy. Representative Beckman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did have some concerns in finance. I think that was several weeks ago before the amendment was in place. But of this mix of CORA requests and almost data sharing with the massive amounts of data that government has on people. And so I really did appreciate Representative Kennedy's amendment that took out very specific medical conditions or things that would be health personal information. But I'm concerned that as governments, we also have massive databases that we share through all departments when it comes to food stamps or Colorado Benefit Management System or TANF. And if we are going to share through data sharing agreements almost with the media, that kind of information, which is pretty personal to some people, I think it's important that we disclose that. Through this conversation on personal information, I've heard many times that, oh, well, the public sector already has that. You know, Walgreens or Safeways, or they already have, or corporate world, the world has that. But often you sign an agreement that says they're not going to share that information, or that you give your approval. So I would like to move Amendment L057 and show it. Actually, what I'm trying to do here is to allow people to understand.
Hold on just a second, okay. Representative Beckman. Amendment L057 has been properly moved and is displayed. Please continue, Representative Beckman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I'm trying to do is, with this change of really being very free with what I would think of as almost data sharing with people who are asking, is that let citizens know that we are now going to be disclosing their information pretty freely. In one of my past lives, I do remember going through a process where a nonprofit had asked for a database of seniors that were applying and getting food assistance through the through SNAP or food stamps. And a lot of processes were going into place to create a data sharing agreement with this nonprofit. In the end, it was seen that that would not be in the best interest of seniors because maybe there was that was a vulnerable population that could be exploited, and the project kind of went away. But I'm concerned that as we move forward and are dealing with large amounts of data that can be asked for in very vague ways, that people need to know that we're going to be giving this information out. And so we can protect the medical information and the mental health and those personal details about a person's life, but this is just a way of maybe allowing people to know that this information is going to be shared. I would ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Representative Beckman. Representative Pabon to Amendment L 057.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And, well, I think it's well-intentioned that this information may be disclosed. The intent of Senate Bill 40 is not to the those private citizens who share the information with the government, but for those who request the information from the government about what they intend to produce. And because we're dealing with the Colorado Open Records Act, which says, again, these are the open records in the state of Colorado. And if they are open records under the state of Colorado, they will be released. This amendment says that there must be a disclosure that the personal information may be shared. And Mr. Chair, I don't believe that this fits under the title, and I ask for a title ruling of L057.
Committee be in a brief recess to check on the title ruling. Committee will come back to order. The chair rules that Amendment L057 does not fit under the bill title. And I think we are back to the Appropriations Committee report. Any further discussion? Representative Beckman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And since that amendment failed, I will just ask the sponsor these questions that I think are really important as we do more data sharing and give live data access to the format that they are being created in. This is going to change the privacy of people. It is going to change the access of the amount of information that people can get about things that the government has, such as SNAP, food stamps, temporary aid to needy families, information that in bulk is now going to be able to be shared with not only like the Department of Education, which we would have a data sharing agreement, but with others that request that because it is correlable in the format that it is created in. And I just think that there is a public privacy issue that we haven't quite resolved with this bill, and I'm concerned about it. And at the very least, citizens should know that we are data sharing with entities when they request it. I think there is a assumption by many that the information that they give on these applications is private and personal. And I really appreciate the medical personal health information that we have moved out of this, understanding that people don't want their illnesses or their health information to be shared in bulk to people who request it. There's a lot of other personal information, much more personal, that government has, that state agencies have about people than maybe the rest of the outside world does. And I'm concerned about that, and I think people should understand that that information is not going to be private. So I'd like to ask the sponsor, since we have dealt with the personal medical information, how do we deal with the other personal information that might be something that the public doesn't want to share? And at least they should be notified that it's going to be shared with media outlets or other, just anyone who asks for the information through a core request. I guess I'd like to ask the sponsor if he has any ideas on how we could deal with that, since I didn't win the title ruling.
Thank you, Representative Beckman. Representative Papone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Chair, there was a minor technical amendment that we needed to the Appropriations Committee report. Doesn't change anything substantive, and you'll see for yourself. So I move L056 and ask that it be displayed.
Thank you. The amendment has been properly moved and displayed. Representative Pabon to Amendment L056. Continue.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Mr. Chair, what this does is it changes the number 2 to the number 3 so that the Appropriations Committee report is properly numbered. Again, there's no substance to this. It's technical in nature. See it, take a look at the bill, take a look at this amendment. It was requested by the drafter, and I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Is any further discussion on this technical amendment, L056? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L056. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. No! Amendment L056 is adopted. And we are back to the Appropriations Committee report. Is there any further discussion on the Appropriations Committee report? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Appropriations Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The Appropriations Committee report is adopted. To the Finance report, Representative Capone.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And the Appropriations Committee report has essentially swallowed the Finance Committee report, so I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the Finance Committee report to Senate Bill 40? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of the Finance Committee report. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The Finance Committee report is adopted. To the bill, Representative Pabon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as you heard, the Appropriations Committee report is the bill. I want to thank all those who've been involved in this journey for many months, many years, actually. Even Representative Garnett and Representative Wist got involved in the journey of the Colorado Open Records Act, and I want to thank them for setting up a mediation process, because this can be a contentious issue. And when I say can, I mean is. It is a contentious issue. Because at the end of the day, this is about taxpayers' access to taxpayer records. And while we don't think about it very much, what we do as the government, what we do as a state legislative body, as a state agency body, as a county, as a city, as a town, the only way that we find sunlight in that situation is through the Colorado Open Records Act. And so this modernizes the way we see and request and collect records so that there is transparency for everyone about what we're doing, right or wrong. We accept that we will be open to criticism in this job and in all the jobs we have. But in this day and age, in 2017, when we have a record that's held in an electronically searchable, sortable format, we should produce it as such. This adds to the transparency of what we do and what we are accountable for. But most importantly, members, and for the record, this is not the end, but the beginning. Nothing is settled here tonight. We will continue to fight for transparency, no matter which corner of the state we're in, no matter what records we're asking for. We will fight till the end for transparency and accountability in Colorado. I ask for a yes vote.
Thank you, Representative Pabon. Is there any further discussion to Senate Bill 40? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 40. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Senate Bill 40 is adopted. Mr. Randler, we are back to Senate Bill 19. Please read the title to Senate Bill 19.
Senate Bill 19 by Senator Martinez-Dominic, also Representative Zinger, concerning increasing medication consistency for persons with mental illness in the criminal and juvenile justice systems in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Thank you, sir. Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move Senate Bill 19 and the Appropriations Committee report and the Health Insurance and Environment Committee report.
To the Appropriations Committee report, Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr.
Nope. Hold on.
Oh, I apologize. There was no Appropriations Committee report because there was no appropriation.
No problem. To the Health Insurance Environment Committee report.
Thank you, Ms. Oh, do we have a clean bill? Wow, that's the first time for me. All right. No committee report on either? My apologies, Mr. Chair. I'm going to go straight to the bill. Who knew that I had a clean bill from the Senate for the first time, but we won't. We'll change that very shortly. I move Senate Bill 19 and also move Amendment L012.
Thank you. The amendment has properly been moved and properly displayed. To L012, Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I knew that we could fix something that the Senate did. Basically, what this bill is about and how this amendment deals with this bill is this is a bill to ensure that regardless of what kind of medication you're receiving from a physician, that if it's mental health medication, that you don't lose that medication if you end up going to jail, if you end up going to prison, if you end up going from jail or prison to community corrections or back out into the general population and back into society. One of the things that we talked about and that we actually amended out of the bill was creating a very expensive IT health information system. While this would be preferable, it is unfortunately not affordable. So we already have health IT information systems that are being built right now, and we can make them a little bit better. So with that, what L012 does is it says that the Department of Office of Behavioral Health shall, in their budgeting process, request the appropriate funds if necessary and make those subject to available to appropriations. The other second fix to this is on page 6, line 9, striking the year 2017 because there will be no 2017 request in 2018 and putting in 2018. We don't need to go back into the past. And with that, I ask for an aye vote on Amendment L012.
Thank you, Representative Singer. Any further discussion on Amendment L012? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Amendment L012 to Senate Bill 19. All those in favor say aye. All opposed say no. Amendment L012 is adopted. To the bill, Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill came out of the Mental Illness and the Criminal Justice System Oversight Committee, brought to us by a task force of 32 members, mental health experts, criminal justice experts, district attorneys, defense attorneys, all getting on the same page, recognizing that there is a problem in our criminal justice system today. That problem is the fact that people who are on antipsychotic and other types of mental health medications can lose their medication through a paperwork error, through a paperwork issue, because we don't have common formularies. So you're on one kind of antipsychotic medication out in the general, out as a general citizen. You go to jail, maybe because you're not doing so well and you've committed a crime. And then after you go to jail, the jail says, well, that's not on our formulary. We're going to give you another medication. And that medication not only doesn't work, so your behaviors get worse, but that medication actually counteracts the ability of the cure that you were taking, sometimes almost permanently. So all of a sudden you end up in jail for one thing, and maybe you commit worse crimes while in jail, or you become a victim of other crimes while in jail. Things get worse, you go from jail to prison, or things get better, you go from jail to community corrections or back out into society, and once again, there's a different formulary. So you're on different medication, and you recidivate, and you go back to jail. This turnstile form of criminal justice is not what any of us want, what none of us expect. And the medication that you're prescribed is the medication that you receive unless a doctor says otherwise. That's what this bill does. It brings those stakeholders together to create that common formulary, and I ask for an aye vote.
Thank you, Representative Singer. Representative Landgraf.
Don't go anywhere.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Singer, I do think this is a good bill. It's a good idea, and we do not want people, how did you pronounce it, recidivate? Whatever. Go backwards. We do not want people doing that. But here is my concern once again. The current fiscal note says $26,000 in 2017, 2018, and I understand, are we to the amendment? No, we're to the bill.
No, we're still on the bill.
And then next year, at least $26,000. It's the words like "at least" that bother me. And on the second page, it says in the fiscal note that it assumes costs will be at least $500,000. But it depends on the specifics. So that tells me that it could be anywhere from $26,000 to $500,000, or depending on the specifics, it could be sky high. And obviously, this is going to be funded for more than 1 year. So that concerns me, given the limited budget and the fact that apparently there's no money in our budget.
Thank you, Representative Landgraf. Representative Singer.
Thank you, Representative Landgraf. I genuinely appreciate the question. And you said recidivate just fine. So this is what we did to the bill. And actually, this is part of why we drew up Amendment L012, is to say, in this bill, we're going to create a common formulary. The creation of that common formulary is not particularly expensive. What's expensive is creating a health information system. But we actually already have a health information system. And that health information system, or I should say that health information system is already being built today. Department of Human Services, Department of Corrections are already working on this. So that $500,000 did not take that into account, that this is something that is already being built. The second thing is there's nothing in this bill that requires that that health information system be built. In fact, what Amendment L012 said is that once a plan for this health information system is submitted, the Office of Behavioral Health shall make a request to the Office of State Budget and Planning and make that budgeting subject to available appropriations. So if the money isn't there, it doesn't get built. If this General Assembly and the JBC doesn't want that money to be there, they have other budget priorities, it doesn't get built. The good news is the system doesn't end just because of that. In fact, this system continues, but it might be pen and paper. It might be in a file cabinet. It might be, using Excel spreadsheets. So we always talk about better, cheaper, faster. You can't do all three. This system, without that $500,000 appropriation, it'll be better than what we got right now. It'll be cheaper than what we've got, or it'll be cheaper than what we're asking for, but it won't be as fast. It'll be a slow system. So we're not actually telling our next General Assembly what this is going to cost. What we're doing is we're saying, give us a plan, tell us how much you think it's going to cost, but in the meantime, for God's sakes, make sure people have the medication that they need when it's being prescribed by a physician.
Thank you. Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Rep. Singer, I have a quick question. Are you talking about the Creo system? Because I've been hearing about that for years, and I keep hearing about it in different contexts, but it doesn't seem to be happening.
Representative Singer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Landgraf, I would actually encourage you to do a couple of things. I think you, and I know you do this, continue going to those Joint Budget Committee meetings where we talk about this. Second of all, Creo is actually up there and running in different parts of the private market as well as parts of the public sector. It's not as robust as what this is suggesting or what we need today, but that system is being built. So in the conversations that I've had with the folks over at Creo, this is being put in place. There would be no additional appropriations necessary in this bill because there's no plan yet. This bill says come up with a plan and then come back to us. I don't want to put out money before I know what we're going to spend it on. I don't want to telegraph whether it's to Creo, QHN, any private or public vendor for that matter, how much we're going to spend on something that we don't need or that we don't know what it does. So that's why we're here today with a very pared down version of this bill that just says everyone work together, come up with a common formulary. The electronic information component, let's wait until we get a good plan and then come back to the General Assembly and see whether or not those are dollars that we want to spend on that program.
Thank you. Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So, Representative Singer, I assume this is like if you build it, they will come, and if you don't, they won't, in financial terms?
I've heard that before. Representative Singer.
Do you believe in miracles? Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's more like if you don't ask for it, they won't bill you for it. And so we don't want them to build it until we know what exactly it is that we want. So yes, we're not going to build it. They're not going to come until we actually know exactly what it is that we want. We're being arguably, maybe this is why the Senate liked this bill unanimously, fiscally conservative. I know that's words hard for a Boulder County progressive to say. Say it again. Fiscally conservative, recidivate. It does, actually. So, no, this is smart. This is smart money, and we're doing this in a very thoughtful manner. We're not putting the cart before the horse on this one. We're not putting the money out there before we know what it is that we need or what we want.
Thank you. Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and Representative Singer. I still think it's a good bill, and I will vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Liston.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Representative Singer, I think I understand your bill. I'm pretty sure I do. So, but I just want to make sure. So, I have a constituent. It's funny you brought this bill up. Maybe they contacted you. Family whose son or daughter is down in a correction facility somewhere around Canyon City. I actually don't know them, but their child is involved with drug, I want to say Buterol. Anyways, a couple of drugs that they need for his well-being, and he's in the facility, and they took him off the drug and have substituted another drug, and apparently it's not working out as well as they believe it should or could. They've even offered to pay for the drug themselves so that their child can have access to it. So from what I've told you, would this bill maybe take care of that type of situation?
Thank you. Representative Singer.
Thank you, Representative Liston. Yes, that is what this bill is about. And I'm very sorry that that's happening right now. It's inhumane, it's counterproductive, and it's unethical. And if there's anything we can do to help in the short term, let me know. And in the meantime, it's going to be all hands on deck with this bill.
Thank you, Representative Liston.
Thank you. Well, thank you, Representative Singer. I will speak to you off mic about some of the details, but it sounds like this is very reasonable. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Escar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I stand in full support of Senate Bill 19, and I didn't have a chance to say so in committee. I just wanted to thank Representative Singer for this important bill. This is something that's happening within my community constantly, things that I'm hearing about. People with mental illness, people with different types of treatment for different opioid addictions are going into jail for one reason or another, only to not be able to access the medications that they had been working on and working with, only to be able to swing back into the vicious cycle of either addiction or mental illness. And it's a real problem. And I commend you and the work that your stakeholders have done on this bill, and I'm in full support and appreciate that this bill is happening this year. It's way past time. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Escar. Representative Humphrey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Representative Singer, for the bill. I get it as far as the, the formulary piece and the consistency there in the treatment and the medications that the patients are receiving. And, these aren't light medications in many instances. And so when someone's whole kind of brain chemistry is dialed in on this one medication, it can really throw somebody for a loop to have that medication not be available when they land in jail, and they're not in there very long. They get out, they're not functioning well, and recidivism is definitely an issue. So I appreciate that piece. I think that's great. And as I said in the committee, and I don't know if I was the only no vote or not, but I think that this fiscal note of $26,000 in 17-18, at least $26,000, 18-19. I think that that's pretty optimistic on those numbers, but they're not huge numbers. So I would really like to see the stakeholders figure this out in some way. I really don't like this. The government having to fund this. So with, as long as there's a fiscal on it, I think I would have to be a no vote, and this is much lower than the previous fiscal, and I appreciate that. And you've been working on it. But I just think that, some grants, there must be something to be able to do this, and this would also lower costs, I think, for the stakeholders involved. So I think there's just one more step that needs to happen, and we're at the end of the session, and I get it, but that's my opposition to the bill. Other than that, I get the whole formulary piece. Appreciate that. So.
Thank you, Representative Humphrey. Is there any further discussion on Senate Bill 19? Seeing none, the question before us is the adoption of Senate Bill 19. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Senate Bill 19 is adopted. Mr. Assistant Majority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You did a great job. I move the committee rise and report.
Thank you, sir. The committee will rise and report.
All right, the House will come back to order. Mr. Randall, please read the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Madam Speaker, your committee of the whole Biggs Lead report has under consideration the following attached bills being the second reading thereof makes the following recommendations thereon. Senate Bill 12, Senate Bill 19 is amended. Senate Bill 21 is amended. Senate Bill 40 is amended. Senate Bill 300 is amended. Senate Bill 301 is amended. Passed second reading. Order raised, placed on the third reading and final passage.
All right, Representative Exum. All right, members, you have heard the motion. There is an amendment at the desk. We have a Representative Ransom and Representative Landgraf amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Randall, please read the amendment.
Representatives Landgraf and Ransom move to amend the report of the committee, hold reverse the action taken by the committee in adopting the Health Insurance Environment Committee report to Senate Bill 300 dated May 9th, 2017, to show that said report lost and that Senate Bill 300 as amended passed.
Representative Ransom.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the Landgraf-Ransom amendment and ask that it be displayed.
Okay, properly moved, and it is displayed. Would you like to, Representative Landgraf?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, we've had report after report about the rising costs of insurance premiums since I've been in here for 5 years. We've seen bills offering subsidies to rural Colorado to offset premium costs. Now we have an opportunity to study this issue for high-risk individuals in an attempt to find a feasible solution. By limiting the study to one type of insurance, you are limiting the accessibility to health insurance for high-risk individuals. We need to pursue all avenues to ensure the most cost-effective products for our citizens. We're not asking to kill the bill.
All done.
We're just asking. Thank you, Madam
we
Speaker.
are working on the report of the Committee of the Whole, and we are discussing an amendment.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We're not asking that you kill the bill. We like the bill. We think studying this issue is a very important issue, but we think it should be broadened, not narrowed. We think we should look for the best solutions for our constituents, not a narrow definition of insurance. I ask for a yes vote.
Representative Ransom.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Landgraf said it well. Again, I urge an aye vote and ask that you support this amendment. One other point, it'll make tomorrow a lot easier because if we return the bill to the way the Senate sent it over and have a broad study that allows multiple facets of looking for lower costs, the bill can just go back and be approved. So again, I urge an aye vote on this amendment.
Thank you. Any further discussion on the Ransom and Landgraf amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole? Members, we are still doing our work. Please be respectful of one another. Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, I ask for a no vote on this amendment. When the sponsors of this amendment talk about broadening the scope of what the Division of Insurance is allowed to look at, let's be really clear about what that means. That means looking at high-risk pools like existed before the Affordable Care Act, in which people with high-risk conditions, expensive conditions to treat, were put into separate pools where they paid much, much more money and where the state had to very heavily subsidize their health insurance. It was a workable system for the time. It was unsustainable over the long run. We should not be going backwards. We should be talking about new ways to improve care while maintaining the benefits so that everyone in our community has access to affordable, high-quality health care. Please vote no on this amendment.
Representative Humphrey.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I just wanted to rise in support of this amendment. This is important to make the study look at the full picture, not just a desired outcome of the bill sponsor. And I think that there were a number of stakeholders who, again, felt snubbed that this bill was narrowed in this way. If there's going to be a study, let's look at all the available options and not just try to direct things in a certain desired direction.
Any further discussion? Representative Landgraf.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Representative Kennedy, you were in committee when a conversation on another bill came up about a bill fitting under the title. And I don't understand, if you look at the fiscal note, it says, bill topic, high-risk health care coverage program. That's pretty clear to me that we're looking at high-risk individuals, and we're looking at coverage for those individuals. We're not looking at all risk or low risk. We're looking at high risk. We're asking the Department of Insurance to look at high risk. So I'm not sure where this discrepancy is coming.
Any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, the question before us is the passage of the Representatives Landgraf and Ransom amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Please close the machine. With 29 yes votes, 36 no votes, the Representatives Landgraf and Ransom amendment to the report of the Committee of the Whole is lost. That takes us to the passage of the reports of the Committee of the Whole. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Oops, another accident. All right, please close the machine. With 46 yes votes, 19 no votes, the report of the Committee of the Whole is adopted. All right, so we are back to third reading of bills. Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And just an update for everyone, we're going to do a couple thirds, Senate amendments to House bills, a conference committee report or two, and then we'll be done for the night. All right? So I move to proceed out of order for consideration of Senate Bill 183.
Seeing no objection, we'll proceed out of order for the consideration of Senate Bill 183. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 183.
Senate Bill 183 by Senator Gardner, House Representative Lee, concerning the authority of the Department of Military and Veterans Affairs to make grants related to USS Colorado and in connection therewith making an appropriation.
Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 183 on third reading and final passage.
Question before us is a passage of Senate Bill 183 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no discussion, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Please close the machine. With 55 yes votes, 10 no votes, Senate Bill 183 is passed. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of Senate Bill 305.
Senate Bill 305 by Senators Lundberg and Fenberg, House Representatives Foote and Neville, concerning modifications to statutory provisions affecting primary elections enacted by voters of the 2016 statewide general election to facilitate the effective implementation of the state's election laws and in connection with making an appropriation.
Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of Senate Bill 305 on third reading and final passage.
The question before us is the passage of Senate Bill 305 on third reading and final passage. Seeing no discussion, Mr. Randall, please open the machine. Members, please proceed to vote. Please close the machine. Wow. With 65 yes votes, 0 no votes, Senate Bill 305 is passed. Co-sponsors. Co-sponsors.
Good bill.
Please close the machine. Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to proceed out of order for consideration of Senate amendments to House bills.
Seeing no objection, we'll proceed out of order for consideration of Senate amendments to House bills. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1293.
House Bill 1293 by Representative Melton, also Senator Todd, concerning the ability of a local government official to serve on a nonprofit entity's board of directors.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the House concur, I know, with Senate amendments.
Would you like to tell us why?
I wouldn't, but I will anyway. There's an amendment in the Senate that explicitly states that local officials or a member of his or her immediate family, if they receive services from one of the nonprofit organizations, that they must recuse themselves from a vote involving that nonprofit.
Okay. Question before us is to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1293. Seeing no discussion, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please vote. Please close the machine. With 62 yes votes, 3 no votes, the motion concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1293 is passed. Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the passage of House Bill 1293 as amended.
The question before us is the passage of House Bill 1293 as amended. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Please close the machine. With 42 yes votes, 23 no votes, House Bill 1293 is passed as amended. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1289.
House Bill 1289 by Representatives Valdez and Hanson. Senators Corbin and Crowder considering a requirement that the state engineer promulgate rules that establish an optional streamlined approach to calculate the historical consumptive use of a water right.
Representative Valdez.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I move to concur on House Bill 1289.
Okay. With Senate
With
amendments?
the Senate amendments.
Would you like to tell us why? Representative Hanson.
Great. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. So I think we can safely come to the conclusion that the Senate perhaps needs a little bit more time to understand bills, because essentially what we're concurring with here is that they would like to study this over the interim. So they've adjusted the bill to send this to the Interim Water Committee to study the issue further. And so we'd ask for your concurrence to give them some more time to understand this issue.
Question before us is a motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1289. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote.
Re.
Representative Hooton is excused. Please close the machine. Please close the machine. With 63 yes votes, 1 no vote, and 1 excused. The motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1289 is passed. Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I can't find you, Representative Hooton, but we still have a lot on the calendar. I move for the passage of House Bill 1280. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1289 as amended.
All right, the question before us is the repassage of House Bill 1289 as amended. Seeing no discussion, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote.
Huh? I think it's funnier when you get. Oh. I'm going to do it too.
Please close the machine. With 38 yes votes, 27 no votes, House Bill 1289 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1332.
House Bill 1332 by Representatives Bridges and Wilson, Alternate Spanberg, Smallwood, concerning State Board of Education authorization for an alternative teacher license for a person who participates in an alternative teacher program provided by a designated agency working with a non-public early child care facility.
There you go, Representative Bridges. All right, Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Could you control your caucus, please? Madam Speaker, I move that we concur with the Senate amendment.
How's it feel, Representative Bridges? You feel good to be tall?
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
inexplicably, the Senate somehow improved this bill, and they did change a safety clause to a petition clause, which I know many members in here will support. You're welcome.
Representative Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd just like to point out that out of 94 members of this legislature that voted for this, or that voted on it, all but one needed to be persuaded by this amendment, and we would hope for unanimous approval. Thank you very much.
All right, the question before us is a motion to concur with said amendments to House Bill 1332. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Please close the machine. With 59 yes votes, 6 no votes, a motion to concur with said amendments to House Bill 1332 is passed. Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1332 as amended.
Question before us is a repassage of House Bill 1332 as amended. Seeing no discussion, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Please close the machine. With 64 yes votes, 1 no vote, House Bill 1332 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors.
It's been here the whole. Where's it been?
Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1359.
House Bill 1359 by Representative Young, Senator Gardner, concerning positions of the Department of Education that are exempt from the state personnel system.
Representative.
Wow. I had no idea there were people in the back row. Hey, hey, hey. Wow. Yes. See? Look.
Ooh, Representative Young.
Well, Madam Speaker, now that I see what I'm contending with, I move the House concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1359.
All right. Would you like to tell us why?
Well, actually, Madam Speaker, the Senate actually did good work on this bill while they had it. Senator Gardner actually connected it to the Colorado Constitution, and he tightened up a date. And with that, I ask for your aye vote.
Okay. With that, the question before us is a motion to concur with Senate amendments to, whoa, don't fall. Motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1359. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote.
Sure.
Please close the machine. With 65 yes votes, 0 no votes, House Bill 13, actually, let me go back. With 65 yes votes, 0 no votes, the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1359 is passed. Now, Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1359 as amended.
The question before us is the passage of House Bill 1359 as amended. Mr. Randall, please open the machine. Members, please proceed to vote. Please close the machine. With 65 yes votes, 0 no votes, House Bill 1359 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors.
How tall are you when you get up on top? I don't know. I'm 6'5". It's really weird.
Wow. Please
Pretty
close the
weird.
machine.
No, I didn't even. No.
Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And members, there are 4 more House bill or Senate amendments to House bills that aren't on your calendar but came over from the Senate, so we're going to proceed forward with those. So those aren't on the calendar. They are House Bill 1353, 1248, 1285, and 1342.
All right. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1353.
House Bill 1353 by Representative Young, Senator Lundberg, concerning implementing Medicaid initiatives that create higher value in the Medicaid program, leading to better health outcomes for Medicaid clients, in connection therewith continuing the implementation of the accountable care, collaborative and authorizing performance-based provider payments.
Great.
Glad you're standing up for yourself, Representative Young. Representative Young.
Madam Speaker, had I only known this, I would have spent a lot more time down here in the well. So. Madam Speaker, I move that the House concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1353.
All right. Would you like to tell us why, Representative Young?
Well, I didn't actually hear any gobbles from the back row, and now that I can see them, I'm just wondering what's wrong with them back there. But yes, Madam Speaker, the Senate actually, again, did good work on this one. They added long-term care to a list of reporting features. They said we should consider some new technologies, particularly around prescriptions, as we think about our Medicaid program. And they actually implemented an amendment that I thought was a good one that we considered here in the House by changing the word implement to develop. And so with that, I ask for your aye vote on the concurrence.
Okay. Question before us is a motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill
I don't really want to
1353.
I don't really want to leave. It's
Mr.
really nice
Randall,
up here.
please open the machine. And members, please proceed to vote. Please close the machine. With 65 yes votes, 0 no votes, a motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1353 is passed. Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1353 as amended.
Question before us is the repassage of House Bill 1353 as amended. Seeing no discussion, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Please close the machine. With 39 yes votes, 26 no votes, House Bill 1353 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors.
I like it.
Please close the machine. Madam Majority Leader Becker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. So in the last days of session, one of the rules that's suspended is that we can hear Senate amendments to House bills, and I was just supposed to make that announcement at the well. So I am now announcing under Rule 3060, we are suspending 24-hour notice for taking a vote on concurrence with Senate amendments. So that rule is now suspended officially. Since we've already done it twice now, I figure you guys would be okay with it.
There was, okay, Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1248.
House Bill 1248 by Representative Arndt, also Senator Cook, concerning the funding of Colorado Water Conservation Board projects in connection with making appropriations.
Representative Arndt.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that we concur with Senate amendments.
Would you like to tell us why?
What? Oh, do you want me to start? So you want me to? So what the Senate did to House Bill 1248, which is the annual water projects funding bill, was they made an amendment to insert a project for the South Platte River Basin groundwater for the high water in Gilcrest with an appropriation of $325,000. They also added a technical amendment that allows the CWCB to make those grants. So that came out of the Senate unanimously and asked for an aye vote.
Thank you, Representative Arndt. The question before us is a motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1248. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote.
Except on an airplane. Sometimes.
Please close the machine. With 58 yes votes, 7 no votes, the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1248 is passed. Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1248 as amended.
The question before us is the repassage of House Bill 1248 as amended. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Madam Majority Leader. Please close the machine. With 65 yes votes, 0 no votes, House Bill 1248 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors.
No.
No. All right.
I'm fine.
Please close the machine.
This might be kind of fun.
Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1285.
I feel like
Bill
really.
1285 by Representatives Mitch Bush and Lawrence, also Senators Cook and John, concerning the financing of the water pollution control program and in connection therewith making and reducing appropriations.
Representative Mitch Bush.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that we concur.
Would you like to tell us why, Representative Mitch Bush?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Huge change here, so listen up. Page 9, there was a drafting error on line 10, and so the amendment is to add paren 1.1 n paren c n paren Roman numeral 3 n paren.
Any further discussion? No. Question before us is motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1285. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Madam Majority Leader. Please close the machine. With 62 yes votes, 3 no votes, the motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1285 is passed.
favorite. You're my favorite.
Jeez. Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1235 or 1285 as amended.
The question before us is the repassage of House Bill 1285 as amended. Seeing no further discussion, the question before, please, Mr. Randall, please open the machine. Members, please proceed to vote. Please close the machine. With 53 yes votes, 12 no votes, House Bill 1285 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1342.
House Bill 1342 by Representative Benavides, also Senator Crowder, concerning authorization for county to suspend a ballot question for a county public safety improvements tax at a biennial, county, or November odd-year election.
Representative Benavides.
Madam Chair, I move that we concur with the Senate amendment to...
Question before us is motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1342. Would you like to tell us why, Representative Benavides?
Well, the Senate made a couple of minor changes to this that seem a bit redundant. In this bill, the county commissioners can approve a proposal to go to the ballot, and they changed that shall to must be submitted to the electors and then it said at the next general election or the next biennial county election or the next general election held on the first Tuesday. So they also added there that it would be as determined by the Board of County Commissioners to make sure the electors knew who was doing it. So it's a bit redundant, but I think we should concur.
Question before us is a motion to concur with Senate amendments to House Bill 1342. Seeing no further discussion, Mr. Randall, please open the machine. Members, please proceed to vote. Representative Jay Becker. Please close the machine. Wow. Two changes. With 59 yes votes, 6 no votes, the motion to concur with Senate amendment to House Bill 1342 is passed. Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1342 as amended.
Question before us is repassage of House Bill 1342 as amended. Mr. Randall, please open the machine and members, please proceed to vote. Please close the machine. With 43 yes votes, 22 no votes, House Bill 1342 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors.
But since it's second, yes, you are. and then you.
Please close the machine. Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Before I make the next motion, members, we're going to go to conference committee reports, House Bill 1004 and House Bill 1155, and both those conference committee reports should be on your desk. So I move to proceed out of order for immediate consideration of conference committee reports, House Bill 1004.
Okay. Seeing no objection, we'll proceed out of order for the immediate consideration of conference committee report on House Bill 1004. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1004.
House Bill 1004 by Representatives Michelson, Janay, and Danielson, all Senators Hill and Garcia, concerning a statewide policy for awarding college credit for military education and training.
Madam Speaker Pro Tem Danielson.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. I move that the House adopt the first report of the first conference committee on House Bill 1004.
Okay. Members, you have heard the motion. Madam Speaker Pro Tem.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Just a quick explanation. We drew some inspiration from the presentation earlier today, so we decided to craft somewhat similar to the Janal Amendment that would allow an animal chiropractor to administer medical marijuana to farm animals. Because, so, no, we didn't do that. We didn't do anything like that. No, we did not do that. In all seriousness, Madam Speaker, thank you. I want to thank also Representative Sias for serving on the conference committee with us. We saw a flaw in the Senate amendment, as we explained when we requested the conference committee permission, and we, of course, worked together to bring it back to the initial intent of the bill. And Representative Michelson, Janay, if you wanted to add anything else.
Representative Michelson, Janay.
Yes, and I'm glad you were all here to witness that and then now you know, right. So what happened with this bill, I would like to point out, is this bill was introduced on the very first day of session. Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow is the last day of session. 119 days in the making. And without Rep. Danielson and without Rep. Sias, we wouldn't be standing here today with a bill that serves our veterans in a way that we can all be proud in our state. So we urge an aye vote.
Oh, and one last thing, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker Pro Tem.
This is the bill that you all, every one of you, co-sponsored. So we felt it necessary to go back and work with the Senate to bring it back to what you all charged us with. So for veterans getting service for credit for service, please vote to adopt this committee report.
Okay. High five. With that, Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote on the motion to adopt the first conference committee report. Please close the machine. With 65 yes votes, 0 no votes, the motion to adopt the first conference committee report is adopted. Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Great job, sponsors. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1004.
Question before us is the repassage of House Bill 1004. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Representative Wilson, please close the machine. With 65 yes votes, 0 no votes, House Bill 1004 is repassed. Co-sponsors should all be green. All right. Oh. Co-sponsors. All right. Nicely done. Please close the machine. That takes us to House Bill 1155, Conference Committee Report. Mr. Randall, please read the title of House Bill 1155.
House Bill 1155 by Representative Thurlow, Senator Gardner, concerning the ability to cure campaign finance reporting deficiencies without penalty.
Representative Thurlow.
Oh, I do like this. You're right, Representative Young. The view is good up here. I came over here 3 years ago with Representative Willett, and this is the first time I've seen him since. Madam Speaker, members, I move the first report of the First Conference Committee on House Bill 1155.
Properly moved. Would you like to tell us why?
If you recall, 1155 is the campaign finance bill. It creates a 15-day cure period, and the challenge was always to create some accountability on the other end so we wouldn't be incentivizing sloppy reporting. And I'm happy to report that the conference committee came up with the perfect solution. It provides a penalty that if the judge finds bad faith, you're penalized at the rate of the regular penalties of $50 a day up into an amount of $5,000, which is pretty stiff penalty. And then if it goes above $5,000, the judge has discretion again to use his discretion to waive some of the penalties. So I think that's a fair solution. Urge I vote.
All right. Question before us is to adopt the First Conference Committee report to House Bill 1155. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote. Please close the machine. With 63 yes votes, 2 no votes, the motion to concur with the First Conference Committee report to House Bill 1155 is passed. Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move for the repassage of House Bill 1155.
The question before us is the repassage of House Bill 1155. Mr. Randall, please open the machine, and members, please proceed to vote.
We're done.
Please close the machine. With 44 yes votes, 21 no votes, House Bill 1155 is repassed as amended. Co-sponsors. Please close the machine. Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move to lay over the balance of the calendar till tomorrow, May 10th at 9 a.m.
All right, seeing no objection, we will lay over the balance of the calendar until tomorrow. Nicely done, everyone. Is there any announcements or introductions?
Some bills for you to cross?
Yeah. We just have a few bills to introduce. You guys can leave.
Announcements and introductions. Representative Pedersen.
House Education Committee members, we are going to be meeting tomorrow to hear. I'm just kidding. I wanted to wait. We're having our breakfast at 8:15 on the balcony. Don't forget.
Representative Rosenthal.
Okay.
And Representative Willett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. All right, for you young members, you new members, maybe not young, this is a test. What do we have in common? Representative Rosenthal and I.
You guys love wine.
It's a tough question.
No hair.
We love wine. Go ahead.
Yes. We both adore a good, oh, is this on? Hello? All right. Hey, Madam Speaker, just zoom down. Thanks. Woo. All right. So thank you, members. Thank you, Madam Speaker. And so, yeah, for the second year in a row, we're doing this Taste of Western Colorado Agritourism, focusing heavily on wine, and there's going to be other victuals as well to eat. It's going to be right here on the balcony tomorrow on CNDA from 2 to 4 p.m. So members, let's definitely come by and say hello to these folks. They come all the way from the Western Slope. So let's give them a little bit of respect, say hello, have a little bit of wine, and taste some of the wonderful fairs that we have from Western Colorado. Thank you, members. Tomorrow.
Thank you. It's a wonderful event. Representative Escar.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Members, as much as you want to hurry and go home and get some sleep, so do our friends who work on our filing cabinets. Let's just clear those files off and let them go home tonight too, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative Escar. And members, I do have an announcement. The Senate did not concur on House amendments and requested a conference committee be appointed to Senate Bill 249 by Representative Janal. The House conferees are going to be Representative Janal, Representative Escar, and Representative Beckman. Any further announcements or introductions? Seeing none. Assistant Majority Leader Garnett.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move the House stay in adjournment until tomorrow, May 10th at 9 a.m.
All right. Seeing no objection, the House will stand in adjournment.